Good afternoon, all. Today I am making this video for the explanation of your Module 2, Chapter 3 in your compiler designs. The chapter name is Lexical Analysis. In the previous video, we have discussed about your Module 3, Chapter 1, about the introduction for your lexical analysis. In this is the today's agenda. I am going to cover it in this video session. Your first topic is what do you mean by lexical analyzer? In the previous video, I already explained you the phases of your compiler. In that phases, the first phase is your lexical analyzer. What your lexical analyzer will do? What do you mean? What is lexical analysis? Lexical analysis is nothing but in that phase, what you are going to do is you are going to give the input as the source program. In your lexical analysis, that lexical analyzer will convert that source program your into the convert it into tokens, because your lexical analysis or the compiler what you are using to in what you are using to compile the lex programs, it won't understand the source program or the human understandable codes. For that reason, your lexical analyzers will in that phase, in your lexical analyzer phase, it will convert all the whatever the statements or the source code you will be given as an input. It will be converted to the tokens. The tokens or the terms, or it is an understandable by your compiler, which you are going to compile the lex program. So that compiler will be understood easily the tokens rather than the source program or the human understandable codes. That is the main use of your lexical analysis. In this, there are basically three basic terminologies. One is token, and next one is lexeme, and next one is pattern. What do you mean by tokens? As I said you, for each and every keyword, whatever you have specified in your source code, for each and every keyword, you will be converting it to tokens. The formal definition for your tokens is it is a sequence of characters that have the collective meaning. Now, here you can take the example as int is a keyword. This is this keyword is converted in your lexical analyzer. The int is one keyword. That keyword will be converted to a tokens. It will be in your tokens. It will always use a specification, or it will always make use of some predefined keywords, like your id is one of the basic term which we will use to specify the tokens. For example, your int character or int keyword, whatever you will be given as a keyword or the in your source program, it will be converted as one tokens. The formal definition of your token is it is a sequence of character which have a collective meaning. Int is a keyword, or int is a sequence of characters that will give a collective meaning. And then what do you mean by lexeme then? Lexeme is nothing but the definition for lexeme is a sequence of character in the source program that is matched by the pattern for a token. It is nothing but for a example, lexeme is nothing but int is a token. In this, each and every character is called as a lexeme. A sequence of character which will give the meaningful, which will give the which will have a collective meaning is nothing but tokens. But in the source program, if you are having a token, means each and every character will be considered as a lexeme. That is nothing but lexeme. Even though your white space or the blank space, everything will be considered as a lexeme. Then what do you mean by patterns? The formal definition for patterns is there is a set of strings in the input for which the same token is produced as an output. It is nothing but whatever the strings. Pattern is nothing but you are following a pattern. It is nothing but you are following some rules. It should have a collective. In a general example, complete sentence will be call it as you can call it as a pattern in your source code. For example, int a comma b. This is also a pattern. Even this you can consider it as a pattern. Likewise, this is a pattern. The formal definition for patterns is there is a set of strings in the input for which the same token is produced as output. And the next statement is this statement or this set of strings is described by a rule called a pattern associated with the tokens. Here int is a token. Pattern is nothing but it has to associate it with the tokens, that you call it as a pattern. There are few examples for your token lexemes and pattern. In this constant remains same for lexeme and the pattern. If condition is also same. If you are providing a relation as a token, lexeme is nothing but you are defining that. What do you mean by relation? It can be any kind of relational constraints, greater than, less than or equal to or not equal to. It can be anything. Pattern is nothing but if any of this condition is matched along with the token means that is your pattern. This is the few examples for your token, lexeme and patterns. And next topic is lexical analyzer architecture. How your lexical analyzer will work, how the tokens are recognized. Here you can see this. You are for the, as I said you, lexical analyzer is the first step or first phase in your compiler. You are providing this source program to the lexical analyzer. But how the tokens are recognized, how it is generated? The first step is in the parser. It is asking for the next to get the next token. For example, whenever you provide the source program, the lexical analyzer will generate the tokens. That token will be transferred to your parser. What do you mean by parser? What is the role of the parser? In the phases of the compiler, I said you the second phase is your syntax analyzer. In that syntax analyzer, what you will do, whatever the output you will get from the lexical analyzer, you are going to form a parse tree using that syntax analyzer. The parser works same as the syntax analyzer. In this parser, you are going to generate a parse tree. You are going to generate for each and every token, whatever obtained by the as an output from the lexical analyzer, that will be an input for the parser. From that parser, you are going to generate a parse tree. Once that token is generated and once it is added to the parse tree, the parser will send the it is an two-way communication. The parser will send again the signal as a get next token. Once it is passed to the lexical analyzer, the lexical analyzer will extract to one token from your source program, or it will get the source program and it will generate one token. In your lexical analyzer, it will generate each and every character. It will read each and every word or each and every character. That is how your lexical analyzer will work. Once in your lexical analyzer, it will generate the symbol table. In that symbol table, it will enter the compilation errors. If any errors present in while performing the lexical analysis means everything will be, lexical analyzer will generate the symbol table. Once it is passed to the parser, or once the token is transferred to your parser, if any of the error present in the if any of the error detected in your parser phase means, again your parser will update this symbol table, but symbol table will be generated by your lexical analyzer. Your parser will update the content in your symbol table. This is how tokens are recognized, or it lexical analyzer architecture will work. And next is what is the role of your lexical analyzer? Why we want the lexical analyzer? What are all the roles, important roles of your lexical analyzer? The first role of your lexical analyzer is to help to identify the tokens into the symbol table. As I said, your lexical analyzer will generate the symbol table. It will store the identifiers or the tokens into the symbol table. And what is the next role of your lexical analyzer is it will remove the white space and the tokens. You are not considering the white space as the tokens. Your lexical analyzer will perform to remove the white space and the comments from the source program. And next one is it will correlate the error messages with the source program. In your symbol table, you are storing the compilation errors. It will correlate that error message with the source program. Whatever the error you have obtained, will that error message is related to the particular source program or not. It will correlate that error message with the source program. And the next role of your lexical analyzer is it will help you to expand the macros. In your first in your system software module, I explained how the macros will work. Macros is nothing but a predefined keywords. It is nothing but in that if you are using that particular keyword means it will be relink queue or it is just like your preprocessors or the header files. The actual exact code is written somewhere or written in some other file, but you are making use of that keywords or making use of that word. That is nothing but macros. That is how similarly how your macros will work. If you are making use of macros, then your lexical analyzer will help you to expand that macros if it is found in your source program. If you are making use of macros, your lexical analyzer will help you to expand that macros. And the next role of your lexical analyzer is to read input characters from the source program. Whatever the input characters present in your source program, it will help your lexical analyzer will help to read the source program and it will generate the tokens. These are all the few main roles of your lexical analyzer. And your next term in your lexical analysis is lexical errors. For what and all you will call it as an errors. Here lexical errors is nothing but they are not very common errors. Lexical errors are not very common, but it should be managed by your scanner or the lexical analyzer. Your whatever the if lexical analyzer won't they commonly you won't get commonly the lexical errors. If it is if you get any lexical error means it should be managed by your scanner or the lexical analyzer. And what are all the other lexical errors you will get means if any misspelling of your identifiers, operators, keywords are considered as the lexical errors. What else you will consider as lexical errors is generally a lexical error is caused by the appearance of some illegal characters, mostly at the beginning of the token. If you are predefining the token means if any illegal characters present in that while you are defining that token means it will be considered as an lexical error. How you will recover the error? How you error recovery in lexical analyzer? How you can recover those errors which you are getting in your lexical analysis phase? The first one is delete one character from the remaining input. It is nothing but if you are adding, as I said you in the last lexical errors, if you are generally if you are having any appearance of some illegal characters mostly at the beginning of your tokens, if you are having any illegal characters at the beginning of the tokens, delete one character from the remaining input. That is the one error recovery method. And what else you can do? Insert a missing character. If you have for example in the int, if you want to specify the keyword int, if you forgot or if there is a missing of character I or n, then insert that missing character into the remaining input. The next one is replace a character by another character. For example, you have declared int capital A and B means in the remaining or the in your further programming, if you are making use of a small a and b means it will be a mismatch. By that time, replace a character by any other character or whatever you have defined the character. That is one more error recovery method. And the next one is transpose adjacent characters. What do you mean by transpose? It is nothing but you are interchanging the adjacent characters. That is, these are the four recovery methods in your lexical analyzer. And next is lexical analyzer versus parser. As I said, you lexical analyzer and the parser or just like two phases in your compilers. First, parser is just like your syntax analysis or syntax analyzer. What your lexical analyzer will do, it will scan the input, but what your parsers will do, it will perform the syntax analysis. As I said, you parser will generate the parse tree. Your lexical analyzer will scan the source program. Once it is scanned, it will generate the tokens and it will pass to the parser or the syntax analysis phase. In your syntax analysis phase, it will generate the parse tree. And what else? Lexical analyzer will remove the white space, null characters or null values, and your lexical analyzer will identify the tokens. But what your parser will do? Detect action dictated by the token order. Whatever the token generated by the lexical analyzer, as I said you before, whatever the output you are obtaining from the lexical analyzer, it will be an input for your parser. So whatever the action dictated by the token, it will be obeyed by the parser. Based on that, based on the obtaining input, your parser will perform. And next is in your lexical analyzer will create the symbol table, but parser or the syntax analysis will update the symbol table entries. What else? Insert tokens into the symbol table. Parser will create abstract representation of the source. And next difference is both will generate the errors. If any error present in the lexical analysis phase or in the parser, both will generate the errors and it will be updated in the symbol table. This is the main difference between your lexical analyzer and the parser. And the next one is why you need to separate the lexical and the parser. Why? What is the need of separating the lexical analysis and the parser? The first advantage or first need to separate the lexical analysis and the parser is simplicity to design. Uh, if you are, it is very simple because if you want to combine the two phases of the compiler means it will, it is comparatively bit difficult or complicated to design the compiler. So for that reason, that is one of the reasons, simplicity of the design. And next one, to improve the compiler efficiency. uh, how you can improve the compiler efficiency. For example, if I assign any task to any one of the student means he or she may take long time to complete the task individually. If I divide the task and if I assign to number of students means the work will I can get the output as soon as that. I mean how fastly the students will work. Same wise, if you separate the two phases of your compiler means it will improve the compiler efficiency. You can if the task is divided means you can concentrate only on the part of the task given to the particular student. Same way, you can improve the efficiency if you are concentrating on the particular part of that program or particular part of that task. That is how you can improve the compiler efficiency. And the next one is specialization. Specialization is nothing but you can make use of any special purpose. You can make use of any special purpose programs or techniques, specialized techniques that can be applied to improve the lexical analysis process. And next one is portability. Only the scanner or only the lexical analyzer requires to communicate with the outside world. Input device specific peculiarities restricted to the lexer. These are the reasons why we need to separate the lexical analyzer and the parser. And next is your advantages of lexical analysis. What are the advantages of your lexical analysis? Lexical analyzer method is used by the programs like compilers, which can use the parsed data for a programmer's code to create a compiled binary executable code. And next one is it is used by the web browser to format and display a web page with the help of a parsed data from the JavaScript, HTML, CSS. And next advantage of your lexical analysis is a separate lexical analyzer helps you to construct a specialized and potential more efficient processor for the task. These are the few advantages of your lexical analysis. And next, coming to the disadvantage of your lexical analysis, you need to spend significant time reading the source program and from partitioning it in the form of tokens. As I said, your source program or the human understandable code won't be understood by the compilers. For that reason, your lexical analysis will remove the white space and remove the null characters, and it will generate the token. It will read the source program, then it will generate the tokens. For performing these many operations, it will take a lot of time. That is one of the disadvantages in your lexical analysis. And next is some regular expressions are quite difficult to understand compared to your PEG and EBNF rules. PEG is nothing but parsing expression grammar. PEG is nothing but parsing expression grammar. Some regular expressions are quite difficult. Whatever the expressions you are providing or whatever the rules you are providing, those expressions, regular expressions, are quite difficult to understand compared to your parser expression grammar, parsing expression grammar. And next is more effort is needed to develop and debug the lexer and its token description. The next one is additional runtime overhead is required to generate the lexer tables and construct the tokens. These are the few disadvantages of your lexical analysis. And next, your next topic is input buffering. What do you mean by input buffering? First of all, why we need buffer? What do you mean by buffer? Buffer is a small storage area and it is an volatile in nature. It is you are making use of the buffer just for the temporary purpose. For that instance, you are making use of buffers. It is a small storage area and a volatile storage area. And that is about buffers. But in this lexical analysis, why you are using buffers? Input buffering. What do you mean by that? Buffers, as I said you, it is for the instance you are making use of buffers for that instance. Take an example like if you want to print any of the character, I you already know that your in IO devices compared to your memory or compared to your processor, your IO devices are very slow when it is compared with your processor speed. For that reason, if you want to print any of the document, what it will do, your printer will print each and every character at a time. For if you want to print a document of more than 1000 word means you need to wait for a long time. For that, by that time, your processor will be in the halt state. To make use of the processor efficiently, what they have implemented has they implemented a buffer. Whatever the content you are going to print on the printer, all the content will be first entered or copied to your buffer. From that buffer, as the time slice of your printer, each and every character will be pass it to your printer. It's from it will be fetched or it will be passed from your buffer, not from the original document or not from the processor. What is the use of this buffer? What is the use of why we are make use of this buffer means for efficient use of the processor. This is the general concept of, about your buffering. But how in this lexical analyzer your input buffering will work means, if you want to print any of the statement, for example here this is one statement, it is nothing but you are initializing two variables int I and j, that will consist of one buffer, and next is you are defining some set of rules, I is equal to I plus 1, j is equal to j plus 1. These are three statements you are transferring to the input buffer. This is the initial configuration how it will work. And next, how your input buffering will work. In your input buffering you will be having a two pointers. One is you will be in your input buffering you will be having a two pointers. One is forward pointer and another one is your begin pointer. These are the two pointers. One is forward pointer and next one is your begin pointers. Always whenever you want to start the execution, whenever you want to start uh, storing the data, or whenever you want to execute the program, your both the pointers will be point to the same pointer, will be point to the single point or to the single character. This is the initial configuration. Both your begin pointer and the forward pointer both pointing to the character or the initial value I. This is the initial configuration. Once it is done, your begin pointer will remain same, but your forward pointer always moves one next. It will read one character after the one character. That is what about your forward pointer. That is how it will work. Once it is encountered in your input buffering, once it is encountered a complete token, or once it is encountered a blank space or the white space, by that time your compiler will consider this as a one token. For example, first initially your BP and FP will is pointing to the point I or character I. Once your forward pointer reaches to this white space, by that time your compiler will consider this as a one complete token. After that, once it is encountered any of the token, what it will be done, both your again your forward pointer and the beginning pointer will point to the next character. It will be considered or it will be point to the next character. This is how your input buffering will work. There are two types of input buffering. One is one buffer method or buffer pace, and next one is two buffer methods or sentinels. These are the two input buffering methods. In one buffer method or buffer pace, what you will do, if you want to encounter, this is the one single buffer. If you want to store it in a buffer, this is a single buffer. You are storing the character, but what happens in your buffer pair or in your one buffer scheme means, if your lexeme length or if your lexeme length is very high to fill in the buffer, by that time what happens, you are not able to, your compiler will not able to read the complete lexeme of that particular statement. That is the one disadvantage of your buffer pace. For that reason, what you will do, you will use of this two buffer scheme. What is the use of this two buffer scheme? It is used to overcome the whatever the disadvantage in your one buffer scheme. Here you are making use of two buffers. In each of the buffer, at the end of that buffer, you will encounter the end of file. Always the word or always the end of file will be encountered or will be added at the end of the buffer. For that reason, you will name it as an sentinels. Always your end of file will be encountered at the end of the buffer. For that reason, you are pointing or your name it has sentinels. This is how your sentinels will work. You are making use of two buffers here. Using these two buffers, you can easily read the complete statement or complete input string. That is all about input buffering. Next is your specification of tokens. What do you mean by specification of tokens? It is nothing but, as I said you, your lexical analysis will your lexical analyzer will generate the tokens. But how you will specify, how you are going to specify those tokens? What is the method? The first, in that specification of tokens, you can specify either the alphabets, binary you can specify any type of letters, characters, numbers, binary values, ASCII values, anything. You can specify anything as a tokens. First one is your symbol or strings. The string over some alphabet is a finite sequence of symbol taken for that alphabet. For example, in this string, consider x is equal to BA and y is equal to NA. For example, consider this as a string. If you want to perform xy square means, what will be the output? This is how your string will work. You can consider this as an example. Or if you want to consider, you can perform the concatenation operation in your string. You can perform any kind of operations. Concatenation if you want to add, or if you want to disjoint, or these are all the few examples for your string. And next one is your language. How you are going to specify in a language? Language is nothing but it's a set of string over some fixed alphabets. The language may contain a finite or infinite number of strings. For example, take for example, this is a one string or one language you have specified, and this is one more language means, if you want to concatenate two strings, or if you want to perform the union operation means, how it will work for your union operation? What will be the resultant? We are going to merge both the values or both the input values of two different strings as a single. Or else, if you want to perform the concatenation means, how it will work? This is the example of your languages. If the language is nothing but uh, language is a set of strings over some fixed or a fixed alphabet. The language may contain the finite or an infinite number of strings. That is nothing but that is the example for your language. And next is your like regular expressions. You already know about regular expressions. I explained that for your lab, related to your lab. What do you mean by regular expressions? You know few of the regular expressions, right? If you are making use of your star symbol, please go through. If you want more examples for your regular expressions means, please go through the notes once. You will get the complete content for your regular expressions. If you are specifying a dot means any character usually accepts a new line, and if you are specifying the star asterisk symbol means zero or more occurrence. If you are specifying any along with any word, along with any keyword, if you are specifying the character as plus means it is nothing but one or more occurrence. Like that, there are so many regular expressions you already gone through. And you came across in your lab examples or in your lab programs. That is nothing but your regular expressions. You are making use of those expressions in your, if you, whenever you want to specify that in your source code. Next is your regular definition. What do you mean by regular definitions? Whatever the keywords or whatever the registers you are using, regular expressions you are using for that regular expressions, you are going to define a distinct name. uh, you are going to give for each and every regular expressions, you are going to give a different distinct names. That is nothing but your regular definitions. And one more thing, that regular definition is also specified that, for example, your regular expression or regular definitions are just like your preprocessors or the macros. It is nothing but if you are, wherever you have specified as a letter means it is indicating that whenever you are using a value as or a character as a letter, you can use any of the value from capital A to Z or from small a to Z. It is valid. Whenever you want to specify A to Z, instead of that, if you are making use of a character or making use of this keyword letter means it is valid. It is predefined. It is just like regular definition is nothing but just like your predefined or predefined variables. That is about your regular definitions. And next one is your recognition of tokens. In your, in general C programming, how you will write the statement for your if loop? In your general C programming, what you will do? You will write the if condition. In that if condition, you are going to specify. You will write a keyword if. With after that, you will going to specify the condition. With after that, you are specifying the looping constraint. It is nothing but whatever the statements you have to encounter. But here, for if you are specifying the statement or if you are specifying that condition means you have to specify in a such a manner: if expression then statement, or what are all the possibilities it will accept, or if expression, for this is for if else condition, if expression then statement else statement. And next is, well, why we use epsilon. I hope you all know already about the about these terms in your ATC. You already learned ATC. So epsilon is nothing but nothing, null character, or you can consider that as a for a escape character. If there is nothing, you will consider it as an epsilon. And how you will specify the expressions? Already you already executed the lab 2 program. How you will, specify the expression whenever you want to give the input? How you will give the input? It is nothing but turn any of the character or the terms. What is this reloop? Or It is nothing but relational operator, any of the relational operator. For example, in this expression, if you are giving a plus b means relation of or relational operators, or you are checking whether you are comparing if it is less than or greater than, if it is equal to, if it is not equal to. Those are all the relational example for your relational operations. You are giving term is nothing but specifying the variables. If a is greater than b, you are checking the condition, you are giving the expression, or else you can give any one term. These are all the input possibilities. Then what do you mean by term? As I said you, it can be either an identifier or it can be a number. This is how you are going to recognize the tokens for the branching statements. And these are all the few examples for your lexeme token name. And for that lexeme, what is the token name and what is the attribute values. As I said your white space will be removed by your lexical analyzer, so your white space won't be having any token names. But your white space will be considered as an lexeme. It is also considered as a one lexeme. So if any white space is present, there is no token name for that. There is nothing, any attribute value for that. And next, if is also a lexeme, it is same as our token name, and you are not having any attribute value. Then else an id, if there is an lexeme, if there is a statement has an id means your token name will be id, and this pointer, and this will be entered to your symbol table. Next is your number. As I said you, term can have either the id or the number. So if the lexeme encountered any number means the token name will be number, and those number will be entered to your symbol table. And rest of few entries will be your relational operators. It is nothing but less than or equal to. But here before in your C++, what you will do for not equals, what you are going to do, you are using that exclamatory mark along with that equal symbol. But here not equal to will be denoted using less than and greater than symbol. That is not equal to, and next is greater than, next is greater than or equal to. These few are the relational operators. And your next topic is transition diagrams. How you will write the transition diagrams? Here it is the transition diagram is written for relational operators. Hope you all know how to write the transition diagrams. Whatever the nodes or whatever, here you are seeing the circles. This is these circles you are name it as a nodes or the states. These circles will be named as a states. Whatever the arrow marks you are specifying to direct is nothing but your edges. Hope you all know this in your ATC. And if you are specifying the double circle means that is your final state. It will indicate it is a final state. And you are writing this for relational operators means you will be having a equals, less than, greater than, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, not equal to. These are all the few relational operators. Let's see how to write. First you are going to start the transition diagram. You need not to give 1, 2, 3, 4 as it is. You can give any value or any characters, any variables. You can give whatever you want to state that, to name that state. Here they have given as a 0. From this is the entry point, this is the initial value. From this you may have the lesser than symbol. This is the lesser than symbol. Along with that, what are all the other relations added with this lesser than, or any other, what are all the other options you will be having with this lesser than? If it is lesser than, along with that you are having a equal symbol means that will return relational operator is equal to lesser than or equal to. Next, if it is an lesser than, along with that you will be having a greater symbol means it will indicate it is a not equal symbol. Next is other. Other is nothing but if there is a if any if you find anywhere at the final state you will be having a asterisk symbol, means it always indicates or it represents the word retraction. Please note the retraction. If you encounter the asterisk symbol at the final statements, it is named as, you will call it as retraction. What do you mean by this? What do you mean by retraction? What do you mean by this retraction? Means you are specifying it as an others. Other than these two, if you are getting any of the values, means you are coming to this final state. But whenever you have the asterisk symbol, means you should consider, you should get back one, you should go back to one step back or one previous state. That indicates by your retraction. If your compiler will encounters while you are writing the transition diagrams, if you are specifying this asterisk symbol, means it is nothing but retraction. What it will do, what your retraction will do, means it will go one step back or one step back to the previous state. It is nothing but it will be considered this as an final state. It is nothing but you can have the less than or equal to, not equal to. You can have any of the possibilities. So this is how it will return. In the same wise, relational group, you will be having one more as an equals. For that equals, there is no any attached value, so equals, it is a final statement. Whenever you are obtained this equal symbol, means you will be written it as a equal. Next is greater than. If it is a greater than, it can be greater than or equal to, or it can be greater than. That's it. Retraction means you will go one step back. You will be consider only this value. So that is nothing but greater than. Hope you all clear about this transition diagrams. And this is an example for your reserved words and the identifiers. How it will work for the words or identifiers, as I said you in the regular definitions, you will be consider letters, means it can be from A to Z, small capital A to Z, or from small a to Z. If you want to specify it for digits, means it can be from 0 to 9. You can make use of these keywords. How it will work? If you want to specify, means for example, what is the starting point? You will be having a letter. It can be any letter. Up along with that, in the next step, you can have the n number of letters, or it may be the digits. If this is the scenario, it will work. It will take as an input, get the token, and the install the ID. Whatever the ID you are identifiers you present in this statement, it will be considered as an ID. This is the example for transition. This is how you can write the transition diagram for your words and the identifiers. And this is one example for the keyword then. In this then, you are not having any looping constant, so you are going to start from the first state to second state. You are going to transiting the one character T. At the end, you will be having complete word then. This is the transition diagram for your keyword then. Next, what do you mean by completion of running examples? What are all the examples, or for what are all the kinds of what are all the few examples you can write for the transition diagram? You can write consider for a transition diagram. Here, as specifying in this transition diagram, see here, first you can give any of the digit, Okay, this is the first example. You are giving the digit. Along with that, after that you can have n number of digits over here, n number of digits. After that, what is the next state? You are having a retraction. It is nothing but you are going to one back step. This is the one example. And next, what is the next example? What is the next possibility? You can have a digit. This is the first value. After that, what you can have? You can have dot. This is the one more possibility. You are having a dot symbol here. After that, what you can have? You can have a number of digits. You can have a single digit or a number of digits over here. And next, what you can have? You can have any expression or epsilon. This is an epsilon symbol. You can have the epsilon symbol. And what else you can have is, you can have the plus or minus symbol. After that, you can have a digit, one or more digits. After that, what it is specifying? It is an retraction. It is nothing but it will come back to the same state. This is the one second example. What is the next example? What are all the next example you can give is, any value, digits, dot. You can directly have the epsilon plus or minus any number of digits. This is one more example. And next, what you can have is digit dot digit. At the end, you will be having a retraction. So that is the end. These are all the few possibilities. You can give it as an unsigned numbers. These are all the few unsigned numbers. You can take this for example for your transition diagrams. And what is this? This is the transition diagram for your white space. How you will write this? Stat. You will have the initial state, delimiter. If you get one delimiter, it will enter to the final state. This is the retraction. Once it is encountered, it will come back to the one step of the state, and it is considering this as a final state. If you are having a multiple delimiters, it will be using a looping constraint. This is the transition diagram for your white space. And next, your next topic is the lexical analyzer generator in lex. How your lexical analyzer generator will generate the lex value. You already I hope all you executed at least one program in your lab, SS and OS lab, in your Lex program. So in that, always for to get the output, to obtain the output, what you will do, always you will give the command like lex dot yy dot c. After once it is compiled, you are going to give the a dot slash dot out. But before giving that, you should know what do you mean by that, why you are giving that value, how your lex value is converted, how your lex code is converted to your C programming, why you are giving dot C. You should know how it will generate. So this diagram will help you to explain that this is the lex program. You are giving lex.l or file name.l. You are giving the source program as an input for the Lex compiler. What your Lex compiler will do, it will compile that, if it will convert that Lex program, whatever the Lex program you are giving, it will be converted, your Lex compiler will convert that Lex program, and it will generate one C file. It will be generated one C file called as lex.yy.c. That C file will be giving as an input for your C compiler. Your C compiler will generate the output stream, or it will generate the one input stream, a dot out. It is an input stream as an a dot out. Here that a dot out or the input stream will be giving as an input for this a dot out, and that whatever the input stream you are giving, that will be again converted back to your sequence of tokens. Your Lex is a completely it is of tokens. Your lexical analyzer, whatever you will enter, it is or whatever the source Lex program you are going to type, it is always consisting of a number of tokens. Your a dot out, at the end what you will do, dot slash a dot out, that will generate the sequence of tokens. From the C programming, it will be converting back to your tokens. This is how you are creating a lexical analyzer, or this is how your Lex program will be generated, or it will be converted. Please, you have to know the steps while you are performing the lab operation, or for your lab externals. You may get this question, how your Lex program will get compiled, or what are all the steps, what are all the compilers you are using to compile this Lex program. You may get this question, so for that you should know this. First, you are providing the Lex program or the source program with the file name dot extension dot help. Once it is provided to the Lex compiler, it will generate a one C file. That C file will be given as an input for your C compiler. It will generate one output file, or it will generate a file, the input streams, or whatever the output you obtained from your C compiler, or whatever the result you get from the C compiler, it will be given as an input for a dot out. That a dot out will be convert, or it will generate the sequence of tokens. This is how your Lex program will get compiled, or this is how your Lex program will be executed. Next is structure of programs. I explained you before. I starting the lab programs. What is the structure of your Lex programming? As I said you before, whatever you have defined or declare before this double lab wasn't, that is nothing but your C declaration or the declaration. If you are having this, whatever you will write within this symbol, it will always having a C code. It is a C code or the C definition function. Here, after this symbol, after it is encountered this symbol, within in between this symbol and the double ampersand symbol, whatever you will specify, it is an declaration section. And if you are specifying anything within this double percentage symbol, means it is a rule section. As I said you before, after that whatever you will be specifying, it is a user defined functions. So this is the structure of your Lex programming. I have already explained you before the structure of your Lex programming. And the next topic is your finite automata. In that finite automata, hope you all know about this terms, deterministic finite automata and non-deterministic DFA and NFA. You already learned in your ATC, so I am not going to elaborate this topic. In this NFA and DFA, there are few difference between DFA and the NFA. Here, how you will write the DFA symbol, or how you will write the transition diagram for your DFA is, What is the difference between DFA and NFA? The DFA, the transition from a state is to a single particular next state for each input symbol. Hence, it is called as deterministic. In this transition, there is no you can pass the multiple you can pass the values to the multiple states. That is nothing but your non-deterministic finite automata. And next is empty string transition or not seen in DFA. As I used in your previous examples, you can't make use of epsilon symbols in your DFA, but you can make use of permits empty string transitions. So your NFA will permits the empty string transitions. And next is your backtracking is allowed in your DFA, but in NFA backtracking is not always possible. Next, your DFA requires more space, and your DFA is bit complicated to specify, or it is not so easy to implement. But your NFA requires less space and it is very easy to implement. Next is a string is accepted by a DFA if it transits from to a final state. Always, whatever the string you are giving, it should be accepted by the DFA when it will be executed or when it will be transits to the final state itself. But a string is accepted by the NFA if at least one of the possible transition ends in the final state. You need not to all the string or all the possibilities need not to end to the final state. If any one or at least one of the possible transitions ends to the final state, such kind of strings are accepted by your NFA. This is all about your module 3 lexical analyzer. Please go through the topics. I already given you the provided you the notes regarding this module or regarding this chapter. So please go through this and you can listen this audio recorded explanation. If you have any doubts, please revert me back.